Welcome, Weave fans and betting fans in general, college basketball fans. Everybody is welcome here at the Three-Man Weave Show. Best Bets, Field of 68, presented by BetRivers. It is our Monday morning show. We got a big week ahead, fellas. Big couple of weeks. Tournaments are coming around. We see them starting at the end of this week. We'll have some preseason tournaments. We'll head down to Myrtle Beach. We'll head down to Charleston. A lot of good basketball coming up. There's some good ones tonight, Kai. We're going to get into that shortly. But first, I want to know if you have any takeaways from this weekend. We did not have a Sunday show. So anything from Saturday is fair game. Anything from yesterday, Sunday is fair game. What did you see out there?
Well, Jim Gonzaga is good. If you want to talk about the marquee matchup of the weekend.
You're starting with a garbage take like that. I don't believe you.
Let me do the Texas side real quick. Don't worry about Texas, guys. Don't worry about Texas. I'm worried about rotations a little bit, because Cunningham played 19 minutes and Trey Mitchell played 14. So I don't know what Chris Beard's doing there. Otherwise, I'm not too worried about Texas. And Jim, Matt, the other thing I want to talk about real quick, the scheduling's been awesome this year from the mid-major level. We had South Dakota State, Stephen F. Austin over the weekend. Tons more good mid-majors we've seen face each other, kind of like the old bracket busters, it feels like. And Matt, we have some more this week. I'm just excited we're getting those type of games, those type of caliber games at the mid-major level.
Yeah, I would just like the games of Gonzaga, Texas caliber to not be taking place at times when 3/4 of the country can't watch at a convenient hour. UCLA, Villanova. Jim's shrugging his head because he lives out there in the desert.
I feel so bad for you.
Hey, you should.
You've never gone to bed at midnight before. That's not like you.
No, I haven't actually gone to bed before midnight in years. So it's a hypocritical take, no question. I'm just worried about the rest of the commoners, the peasants out there. You don't get a chance to watch the West Coast teams, and that's my concern. Kai, your point's well taken. Quick takeaway for me, broader, big macro betting take. The dogs are loose. I don't know who let them loose. The Baja men may have done it. It could have been any one of us. 54% against the spread, 167 and 142. That is a massive sample size as a plus EV bet, just blindly betting underdogs. It's a very, it's an outlier relative to what we've seen in years past. Usually favorites are very strong this time of the season. They're motivated coming out of the gate. But if you like an underdog, chances are it's going to hit. So that's just a general underlying force in your favor.
Knock on wood. We got some doggies today.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. So I'm sure that trend will completely spit right back in our face the second I bring it up. Jim, that's all I got.
Well, Matt, just going off that, I think we mentioned it last week, but unders continue to be hot. They're 54% themselves. If the game stays out of overtime, unders are 57%. So
that's bananas.
That is wild. If you can dodge the demon that is overtime, then you're in good shape as a dog or an under better. But Kai, just to add on to the Gonzaga point, it's because Timmy is so good that Gonzaga is so good. Like, you can't defend him like Texas did. They just gave him single coverage, and what do you know? He went for 37, and that just makes everybody else so good because of the attention that he has to be paid. Yeah. All right, let's move into tonight's slate, fellas. We got a big one starting it off that my man Kai is going to be in person for.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to get some real hot takes from you tomorrow. This is Illinois headed to Marquette. Kai, are you ready for this one? Your boy Brad Underwood, you've covered him in person before. So you're going to have a little bit of a take there. But this is Marquette as a dog. They've been terrible as a favorite to this point, not covering against SIUE, not covering against New Hampshire, pretty easily not covering. Honestly, this is a big test for my theory that the Golden Eagles will be much better as a dog. Feisty, scrappy underdog. Should be annoying to play defensively because they've got some good individual defenders. And Illinois does not have KOFI.
No.
So Kai, do you buy my theory that Marquette will be better as a dog, or are you off board on that?
Well, I hope so, Jim. For my Mizzou bias, I hope Marquette's feisty. And also, I'm kind of thinking Marquette covers this game. I hope they do at least. As a media member covering the game, I, of course, will be impartial and not cheer. Marquette beat SIUE by 11. That's what Chicago State beat them by. That's bad. That's terrible, right?
Hey, the Cougars are legit this year. That's a legit basketball team.
Cougars might be legit. We'll talk about that one, I'm sure, later. Illinois has been pounding the lesser teams. This is their first test. Obviously, no Coburn's huge. Maybe no Hutcherson also. Obviously a role player, but still, down a couple guys. It matters on the road. I heard Pfizer Forum is going to be sold out today. It's obviously a very big game for the fans up in Marquette.
Deer District's going to be crazy, Kai.
Yes, they are. Jim, Matt, Coleman Hawkins has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been a monster
for Illinois. And Underwood called that in the preseason. I'm wondering if he continues that tonight. Marquette, it's got to do with defense.
I have some data, a lot of data actually on today's outline. Did some good show prep. Jim, I have that
gold
exact
star.
I do actually. I'd like a few, but this is going to back up your theory. Shaka Smart as an underdog, first year at Marquette. Going back his last, I guess, in the entire Texas tenure, he got there in 2016. I believe it was his first season, 48-35 as a dog there. So pretty convincing trend. And we've always said this, like Texas as a large favorite, it's not a good bet. They weren't when he was there. Offense was always herky jerky. Last season, we saw some major strides on that side of the ball, but it was always defense length. And this year he has that same DNA. And against an Illinois team without KOFI, I don't care if Hawkins is doing his best KOFI impersonation. He's not the dominating Shaq, college version of Shaq that KOFI is. I think Marquette has a chance to win this game outright. So if you're catching 8-9 points, I think money line's got some value here too.
I think it's down to 7.5 at BetRivers, Matthew.
I take it in anything 7 and above is still
eight actually.
EV.
Give you that hook, 8.
Yep,
8.
Give it to him.
And that's my best bet. Spoiling right now. Best bet.
Wow.
There it is.
Coming in early with the best bet. I love it, Matt. Kai, to your point, Coleman Hawkins is 8th in Ken Palm's Player of the Year rankings. National Player of the Year. Coleman Hawkins is 8th. It's insane. It does help that Curbelo missed the first game. Frazier missed the first game. But Curbelo played 19 minutes against Arkansas State. And Kai, did you see what his assist rate was?
Was it low, Jim?
68%.
It's high.
It is absurdly high. That would lead the country comfortably. It will not remain that high, but just proves how valuable he can be to that offense, how much creation he does. He's going to have plenty of that opportunity against Marquette, who's on ball defenders, maybe not quite as strong. You probably throw Daryl Morcell at him.
Morcell at him. I agree. You just throw your best guy. It's probably not a great positional matchup. It may leave you exposed on the wing, but Marquette's got plenty of size. They're playing like 6'8", 6'8", 6'9" across the front line with Lewis, Quath, and Prosper. I think Olivier Prosper. So I think, I love this Eagles bet here. Miami didn't go so well over the weekend, so I probably should kind of.
Seagulls?
No, I call them the Eagles. We should call them the Seagulls though when they travel down south.
Just every bird. The Falcons are great here. All right, so that is Matt's best bet. Marquette +8. I certainly lean that way. I think Kai does too.
I lean that way as well, Jim. Yeah.
Yep. Curious to see if Marquette is better as an underdog because again, not good as a favorite through the first 2 games. All right, let's move to game 2 on the outline here. The first of the Gavitt, I guess another Gavitt games. These are both Gavitt games. Providence headed to Wisconsin, staying in my cheese state, Kai. We got a couple big matchups from there today. Wisconsin right now -5.5, a low total. Unsurprising with these two teams, 130. This is going to be a slog. I don't really know how either team scores consistently, although the Providence defense was not impressive against Sacred Heart over the weekend. They were missing their starting point guard and still gave up like 40 in the first half. That was not ideal. But I don't really buy this Wisconsin team's weaponry. Is there any chance this goes over? Where do you see this matchup lining up, Kai?
I lean under Jim here. Obviously, 2 teams that are sometimes offensively challenged. Wisconsin, we haven't really seen. It's kind of like Illinois. They've played 2 poor teams. They've blown them both out. Brad Davison, by the way, 132 O rating. So I guess suck that.
He's back.
Haters.
He's back. Here first.
No, but Jim, this is going to be a real test for them because Chucky Hepburn, Matt, their starting point guard right now, the freshman.
Love Chucky.
Yeah,
love Chucky.
But he's been shaky with the ball. His turnover rate is pretty high. And against a Providence team that's certainly a lot better at defense than the other 2 teams they've faced, Providence has a lot of physical guys. They're always tough under Cooley. That could be a real issue for him. Nate Watson, I don't really see much resistance with Crowd, with Carlson, with Vol inside. Or Vogt. Even Vogt. I mean, he's tall, but I think Watson's just a stud, frankly. Line got slammed, Matt. There's not really any value for me anymore, but I do lean towards Providence.
Yeah, my angle here is a lot like the one we just talked about with Marquette, Illinois. Ed Cooley, over that same time frame, last 6 seasons, 52-39 as an underdog. I think the last 5 seasons. So 1.6 cover margin. So he's been consistently very effective in that spot. Similar type of just general perception as Shaka Smart, a team that's built on length, defensive tenacity, offense sometimes looks stuck in the mud. We'll probably see a similar type of game tonight. It's going to be low, going to be ugly. I can't believe the total actually got bet down, opened at 131, got bet down to 130. So people see this being a disgusting crawl. But Kai's right. The market's it pounced on the early value. I would not take Providence anything below 6, and it's already at 5.5. So nothing for me at this point.
Wow. Really great advertisement for my best bet, fellas. Love that.
Hey.
I am on Providence.
There's a shitty set for me. I'm sorry. It was a bad set there.
Providence +5.5 is my best bet. We're coming in hot. We're usually waiting until the end, usually some off the board mid-major games, but Matt and Jim both with best bets to start off early. Yeah, I basically what Matt said. I think Cooley's going to be very competitive here. Wisconsin doesn't really have the firepower that scares me as a big favorite. It's not a big favorite, but they just don't have like, okay, they're going to run you off the floor type of options. I think Providence can hang around. I'll take the 5.5. I would not take anything below 5. Matt was mentioning 6 is his cutoff, but 5.5 works for me. I'll take that. Hopefully they lose by 5, Kai. That'll work. Yeah. That counts. That's a winner.
It does.
All right, let's move on. Kai, you talked about the great mid-major matchups that we've had early in the year. Got another one today. Furman at Belmont. Furman coming off a huge win at Louisville in overtime. Belmont had a little bit of a get-right performance, destroying Evansville over the weekend following their opening loss to Ohio. Belmont currently sitting at -6.5, 151 total. Kai, I'll start with Matt here. I've been going to Kai early here. Matt, can they handle Moose inside? Can Furman handle the Moose? I don't know that there is a true center on this team that's going to match up with him, especially with the way Belmont feeds him in transition.
Yeah, Garrett Hine, I guess, is the de facto option. He's not a traditional big guy, though. He can step away, little inverse. And that's all of Furman's players are like that. We talked to Richie about this on our podcast last season. He likes guys who are pretty much don't have a position. Multi-positional dudes can play inside out. So I think that will be a double-edged sword. On offense, they can exploit that, but on defense, Belmont, if they're smart, and they are a smart team, well coached by Casey Alexander, will go early and often to Moose. I think both teams have trouble stopping the other on the offense side of the ball. I don't know what the pace plays out, but the over feels right from an efficiency standpoint. Kai, in terms of the actual line, it's hovering, I think, at 6 right now, which does feel a little big given how well we've seen Furman play. And if they win this game, an at-large berth is really much within reach. They just beat Louisville at Louisville. Yep. Get another road win at Belmont. So, I mean, Furman will be hyper motivated for this game.
Absolutely. Yeah. 6.5 right now, Matt, at BetRivers. Just a fun matchup, like Jim said. Another great and major game. Yeah, the offenses are on display here. Richie's 5-out offense, Alexander's drag screen transition. It's going to be awesome. I agree. I don't think either team really stops one another. Probably a lot of points in this game. I do think it's a little bit too many points for Furman. Belmont had trouble with Ohio. Furman's probably not quite the caliber of Ohio, Jim. Not quite there, but not too much worse. So certainly a game Furman can win outright even at Belmont. And I don't know if this is going to be a trend for the future, but early on, Belmont has not denied the three-point line very well. They're actually 343rd in three-point attempt rate. If that's truly their trend, I don't think it is. That's bad news against Furman, who wants to shoot the three all day, every day.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've already seen Furman go into a hostile environment and win. Louisville's tougher to play at than Belmont is. So, I think it's or maybe a point or two too many. I would lean towards the Paladins. Not something I'm officially locking in on the show, but I'm with you guys. Lean toward Furman, and then efficiency should be through the roof with these two. Not a lot of big athletic defenders in this one. Yep. All right, we'll keep rolling down the slate here. We are headed to Wazoo out west. UC Santa Barbara, a darling from the NCAA tournament last year, headed to Washington State. Matt, I'm staying with you here. This one surprised me in terms of line movement. I thought people would be all about the Gauchos. They've got some key pieces back from last year. This has gone up from 6 to 7.5. Wazoo -7.5 at BetRivers. Total 135.5. With such a feisty underdog and someone that's proven they can play with high major competition, are you a little shocked to see this one go up like me, or you think that's where the number should be headed?
Well, we're all pretty high on Washington State as a group. It seems like everyone is. That's not like a cool, fun, edgy take that we had. It seems like everyone's just putting all their chips in on the Kyle Smith data raid. But it's not a team I like as a large favorite. Jim, I think you back them for a small financial interest against Alcorn. And you saw the trials and tribulations a team like Washington State has trying to score. They have a lot of guys, a lot of depth. They're built to defend at a high level. Offensively, I think Smith's still sorting out the pecking order in the backcourt there. He's got some weapons with Noah Williams and Tyler Roberts, and I'm blanking on the third guard there. Flowers from Western Michigan, South Alabama. So a lot of ammunition, but they just don't know how. It's not quite together yet, Kai. So I like Washington State. I think actually there's a little bit of value at the current number, but it's not a team I want to back as a favorite, so I will not be.
Yeah, I think the Gauchos are legit. It is their first D1 opponent, and we don't know how they look truly on offense without Ja'Cory McLaughlin, who was an honorable mention All-American last year at the mid-major level. That's incredible. Amadou Sow is the guy they're going to play through in the post, but it's kind of tough to play through the post against Washington State. They got a lot of big guys. They certainly hang their hat on defense under Kyle Smith. So I'm a little bit worried about how the Gauchos score. But on the other end, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head with Washington State's offense. I think UCSB is going to be up to the challenge guarding them. It's a very, very tough matchup for them. It's a very good mid-major. I do lean towards UC Santa Barbara, and Jim, I agree. I'm surprised the numbers gotten bet up.
Yeah, in the opener, Matt mentioned I had that Alcorn money going, and it was the first game of the season. Alcorn's pressure really bothered Washington State's guards, and I don't think UCSB is going to pressure in quite the same way. So if they can execute in the half court, they're going to be fine. But yeah, I made this a little higher, so like it followed my number, but just kind of gut where I thought the market would be. I thought they would be on the Gaucho, so a little bit surprising. Nothing for us there, though. I think all in all on that game. That means we're headed to the chat. I'm hoping one of you two has been tracking the chat mob, coming in with questions. Gotcha. Good. Hit us, Kai. What do we got so far?
Well, Jim, we just got 2 questions. They're both extra games. Virginia Tech Radford is our first one. Big spread here. I think it's around 20.5. What do we think here? Radford, I assume they were going to play faster this year, but I don't think we've seen it quite yet, Jim. Do you have any side in this one?
No, I'm pulling up to see what Radford's possession length was in their first.
Yeah,
they ultra slow, 332nd. Like they were crawling. We did not see them speed up the way we thought they would. But I was impressed by the way Virginia Tech went on the road and blew out a slow team in Navy, in a pretty hype spot for Navy, although they were coming off a big win. But winning by 20 there, I think Navy is better than Radford, and this one's at Virginia Tech. So, hard to get behind the dog in this one. But as we mentioned at the top, dogs have been really, really good, especially these big ones on the road. Stay away from me here.
Kai, I think you're trying to hint toward an overplay. I like that. The first game was against Virginia, and Virginia suffocates everyone into a crawl. So I think we start to see more of Darius Nichols' true form of style that he wants to implement in this game. The question is, does Mike Young and Virginia Tech control it themselves? I don't know. I would lean over, though. I think that's a decent angle.
Yeah, but Virginia Tech does want to do what Virginia does.
That's true. Just hopefully not as adamantly, I guess, if you're on the over.
How about Bryant and Clemson? This one is 11.5. Not too much different of a spread, Matt, than we saw with Bryant, Rhode Island. And I'm not sure Rhode Island's that close to Clemson. I don't know. Clemson's defense scares the hell out of me, even if Bryant is a supernova offensively. Do you like any side in this one?
I like Bryant, but the key thing here, I believe Peter Kiss, former Rutgers transfer, who's been a renaissance. He is I think he's back. Unknown. He's supposed to be back.
Yep.
I think Grasso said a week ago he was supposed to be back imminently. It was a suspension disciplinary thing. They should have beat Rhode Island. I'm sorry, they probably shouldn't be, but they were in control of that game and it just collapsed so emphatically. I don't think that happens again against a Clemson team that you're right, Kai can defend, but they go through their own offensive scoring lulls as well. So I think Bryant can take advantage of that if they're making their shots. And when they're on, they can beat anyone, and they're that good from three.
This is very much a theme of the back half of the outline here, where it's two very disparate tempo teams. Like one team really wants to run and one team really wants to sit in the half court and force you to execute. And I have a hard time getting excited about the mid-major being the one that wants to run against a physical, plodding half court high major opponent. So I'm staying away from this one. A lot of these are going to be really guesswork in terms of tempo because of the really clash that we have on each side.
We will be talking about Buffalo, North Texas on the show. We'll be talking about Liberty LSU a little bit later as well. And we'll be talking about Navy and Louisville. How about Ohio State Bowling Green, guys? Ohio State obviously barely got by Akron, another MAC opponent in their first game. I'm not sure they looked too sharp in their second game, but I'm kind of blanking on their opponent. Going to help me out with that one.
They did not look sharp.
Not look sharp. Yeah, right. Yep. This spread is 16. I thought Bowling Green was better than Akron heading into the year, so I think there's value on Bowling Green.
Yeah, guys. No Caleb Fields for Bowling Green yet, I don't think, which matters.
Yeah, it does matter.
Solid guard for them. But we also haven't seen Kyle Young yet for Ohio State on the other end. He's dealing with this like vertigo almost. It's like an inner ear problem where it affects his balance. I don't know how you get over that. That seems like an issue.
Balance seems important in the game of basketball.
Sure does. A little bit. Sure does. But yeah, well, like I kind of just thought this was a little high, especially because we have not seen Ohio State's defense improve this year. And they have not been good as a favorite yet so far. So would definitely lean towards Bowling Green at the number.
I don't think Justice Suing is fully healthy either. And he's so important for this offense, especially in the wake of Dwayne Washington's departure on both ends for that matter.
Yeah, he's played 14 and 16 minutes per game. I think he's on a pitch count right now.
Yeah. Last one, Jim, before we go back to the outline here. The Fighting Tim Miles. That's San Jose State.
Spartans
impressive
up.
first win for them. Yeah, they're going on the road to Stanford. This spread is also pretty big right now. Not popping up for me right now. I think it's around 20-ish.
It got bet down to 18.5. So
18.5. That's probably the right direction, Matt, don't you think?
Yeah. Stanford could get bent cordially. I learned my lesson with Miami and Stanford getting overly excited about best bets, and then they just lay a big fat egg. Stanford, I think, will be better than what we saw in that game, but this is a big number against a San Jose State team that shot hot in that first game. But
Very
Miles
hot.
they have some, I wouldn't say decent talent, but not certainly a cut above from what the former regime had there. And it's a much better, cohesive, more well-coached team. So I got to think they keep this game low and can probably sneak inside the number.
Yeah, I think it's a little more about Stanford than it is about San Jose State. Like Stanford has some issues right now. They really struggle with Tarleton State in the opener, got destroyed at Santa Clara in the second game. And asking them to cover 20 right now in the state that they're in is probably a little strong.
That's it. Jim, back to you.
All right. As I mentioned, the theme of this back half of this outline is going to be the tempo struggle. Basically, every total is around like 140-ish because one team wants it to be 150 and another wants it to be 130.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to try to decipher which way we think those are going to lean. First off in those matchups, Penn State at UMass. Matt, I was a little surprised at how slow Penn State played.
I was too.
Against Youngstown.
Very surprised.
I mean, just a total half-court crawl. They did not want to run. They wanted to get into pick and roll sets, a little bit of motion with Shrewsbury having the Matt Painter background. UMass is like all guards. Michael Stedman, the Montana transfer, has yet to play this year. They're key big man. But you're excited about the Trent Buttrick Bowl, aren't you?
Yeah, former Penn State, UMass to Penn State, right? Or no, Penn State to UMass.
Yep. Penn State to UMass.
So we saw a few of these revenge games. So a former transfer plays against old team and has a nice outing, and that team covers. Ricky Lindo, George Washington, Maryland comes to mind.
Central Michigan did not work out. My Oscar Lopez revenge.
Your Oscar Lopez Bowl,
did not work out.
All right, we need to run the data there on the former revenge spots. But in this game, in general, I watched Penn State. I've been a flag waiver of the Nittany Lions all offseason. I was a little bit underwhelmed, and for the reasons you guys mentioned, you're probably like, yeah, Matt, we freaking told you that this team is basically a mid-major all-star group. And that's what it was. It's Sam Sessoms, who looks phenomenal. He really played well, but it's still a Binghamton transfer as like your lead alpha. That to me sort of implies a lowish ceiling. So I'm cooling on my Penn State preseason take high. From this matchup value perspective, I think the line's pretty sharp. Yeah. Sitting right around 2-3. So to me, it's a stay away.
4.
It's 4 now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm tempted. Where do you stand?
My gut tells me Penn State crushes them, but I don't really trust either team. So I'm not putting my money on this one. I agree. Right. I think Shrewsbury could be great. I'm just in wait and see mode with them still. UMass is just hilarious. They lost to Yale by 20. I mean, the team's a joke right now under McCall. But they have the ability to win against a team like Penn State because they have the ability to actually score points in bunches, Jim. They have a lot of talent in the backcourt. That's undeniable. So they're one of those teams that's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, unpredictable. I'm looking at the inside matchup, John Harrar versus Dominguez. He's a shot blocker, but I think Harrar kind of cleans up on the boards here.
Yeah, Harrar's
I'm leaning towards Penn State. A little bit high for me to officially take it -4, though.
Yeah, my number is like, oh, you should think about UMass. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at the coaching matchup here, and I don't really want to back Matt McCall against a coach I'm pretty high on in Shrewsbury. And agree, Kai. Harrar has yet to play an interior that's going to really shut him down and make him work too much for the rebounds. I think he can dominate the offensive glass here. So, yeah, it's a little bit of gut versus number, which means stay away. That is nothing for me. All right. Another fantastic mid-major battle. Buffalo, one of the top 2 teams in the MAC, headed on the road to North Texas, who did win a game in the NCAA tournament last year, knocked off Purdue in a grinder. That's what they're going to try to do again here, Kai. They want to play slow. They want to keep Buffalo out of transition where we know they can be deadly. Jonathan Williams went off against Michigan. I believe he had 32, a career high.
Yeah.
Do you think that the athleticism of Buffalo can overwhelm North Texas here, who does have a lot of roster turnover from that tournament team last year?
Yeah, that's why I'm leaning Buffalo. I'm actually surprised the line's gone towards North Texas. It's -1 right now in favor of the Mean Green. Just 2 extremely tough physical teams. Buffalo on paper, athletically, experience-wise, continuity, that's your team. I think they have top 50 upside. I know they kind of got blown out by Michigan, but it's Michigan. And I was impressed by them coming back and covering that game.
The way they punched back.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay, they've got some fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And North Texas, it's their first D1 game of the year. They're going to be a really good team again. McCaslin's one of the best coaches in the country, period, at any level. Obviously, we all think that. So that scares me a bit if you want to back Buffalo, Matt. But the line's pretty short. It's basically a pick. I'm leaning towards the Bulls.
I took North Texas. I'm a Grant McCaslin protege. He's grooming right now to take over when he eventually gets a 6-figure, 7-figure payday, which is long overdue. Someone needs to hire that guy and pay him the big bucks. He's awesome. Jim, you mentioned the roster turnover, or Kai, both you mentioned the roster turnover. It's the Tyler Perry House of Pain time. Lauded JUCO recruits. He comes in to replace Javion Hamlin, who was the impetus of that offense last season. Jim, as you mentioned, had a really nice opening debut. So I feel good about him kind of stepping into that getting the keys to the offense. And it's a team that's going to make Buffalo make jump shots. And when Michigan was doing that successfully, as we saw, it was not going well for the Bulls. It's a team that is a little bit short on shooting. I think that comes back to haunt them in a tough, tricky road spot. I like them in green here, even at the worst value relative to the opener. You said pick, Kai? I think I'm saying pick.
It's -1 right now, North Texas.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No higher. I wouldn't go any higher than that, but I think -1 still mean green for me.
Yeah, I'm opposite Matt. I think the wrong team is favored. I think Buffalo should be -1 or -1.5, something like that. So I would lean towards the Bulls. I think that shooting was a little bit of an aberration against Michigan. Yeah. Keyshawn Bruton's a good shooter. Maceo Jack is a good shooter. And those guys were just ice cold against Michigan. I think they can knock down shots if that's what North Texas forces them to do. My concern, though, is just that Buffalo wants to be in transition, and North Texas is so good at controlling the tempo. This number sitting at 140, the total, which is very much like a shrug number, I think. We don't really know which way.
Split the difference. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So lean towards Buffalo, but Matt likes North Texas. We are split on that one. Weavers, 2 more on the outline here. Navy headed to Louisville. We've seen what Navy can do on the road to an ACC team. They have already knocked off Virginia. This one, Louisville up to -15. I believe it opened 14, dipped real quick, and is now up to 15. Louisville's been bad as a favorite, though. They have not been able to take care of Southern as a huge favorite on opening day, and then lost at home to Furman, as we discussed. I'm not really sure what the excitement is to back them here, Matthew, but I did at 13.5.
I did too.
And I don't feel great about it because Navy can slow the game down. We need to see something from Louisville, or it's close to panic button if they are in a dogfight in this one.
Yeah, I wanted to complete your intro there with we've seen what Navy can do, and we've seen what Louisville can do at home with high expectations without Chris Mack on the sidelines, and that's lose to Furman in overtime in a game that's, I don't know, at this point feels like it can't lose for a program that's trying to climb the ladder. A couple of sort of lost in the wilderness type of seasons. Yeah, I'm just not excited to back this Louisville team until Mack gets back on the sidelines. And then here I go backing Louisville again in this spot against a team that just beat Virginia at Virginia. I just think the line's too low, Kai. It's that simple. I'm still a believer on Louisville. I'm souring quickly. This might be a game where I finally hop off the bandwagon, but I will ride it one last time until it bucks me.
Navy just having an ACC schedule here to start the year. Yeah. Chris Mack's still
a bad ACC. A bad ACC.
Chris Mack's still out, right?
6 games.
6 games. Yep.
That's important, obviously. I think Louisville's gonna be really good in the spring. I just don't think they're a complete team right now. They don't really have a star power. They have a lot of good pieces. But yeah, I'm staying far away from this game. Navy, they're just tough, man. They're tough as nails, as they should be as a military school, Jim.
Yeah, the sea troops. We saw the air troops go to Tulsa and win. The land troops haven't gotten a big win yet. They competed with Duke for a while, but we trust the troops. The troops take care of business. Unfortunately, I hope they don't today. So hope the Cardinals can get it done. But at 15, I would not recommend it. The only reason I took that 13.5 was a number value play. So 15, it's not there.
Yeah, it does feel so unpatriotic fading any of the academies. So just don't follow me and Jim. Don't follow us. Don't do that.
All right, one more game on the outline, then we'll get back to some chat mob questions. But before we do that, get some likes going, folks. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're in here, we're going to be answering your questions. So the least you can do is just tap that like button for us. We definitely appreciate it, as does the channel. All right, let's talk this last game, Kai. Liberty headed to LSU. Last I looked at BetRivers before the show was LSU -8. Another total of 7.5. Okay. Yeah. Another total of 140. Like we mentioned with Buffalo and North Texas, kind of a split the difference total. Liberty wants this to be played in the half court. LSU very much likes to run. They usually are a prolific scoring team. They're a little bigger this year, and they lack guard play. So I'm wondering if that is going to shift to a slightly more balanced team, not a top 10 offense and outside the top 100 defense. We'll see. But Liberty, man, this team has beaten high major competition before. They have a deep and talented front line and a sniper, almost mid-major Steph Curry at this point with Darius McGee. His range is unlimited. Kai, can they hang around? Is the number getting too low? Do you think the Flames get it done?
Could be a live dog, Jim. Yeah, numbers been bet down 2 points, 2 full points from the opener. 9.5, I think, was the opener. LSU's won by 62 against Monroe and 25 against Texas State. They were down at half. It was a hell of a second half performance for the Tigers. That's driven their rise in KenPom. They've risen 14 spots from the preseason rank. Now, those are impressive wins in their own right, but this is a whole different animal. Liberty is much better than both those teams. Obviously, the LSU offense is going to be there. It's proven that. I don't think Darius Day is going to shoot 73% from three, Matt, all year. He's 11 for 15, I think, through 2 games. It's incredible.
He's been awesome.
I'm curious to see how LSU handles Liberty's unique defense, right? Their pack line, if that kind of stymies them a little bit in the half court. And this will be the first real test for LSU's defense. Texas State, UL Monroe, not great offensive opponents. And we know that LSU's defense has been the bugaboo last few years under Will Wade.
I think the timing of this matchup is notable. Liberty, Texas State, not apples to apples comparison, but similar type of DNA. Texas State plays kind of a conservative, defensive type of brand, slower, low possession. That's a great litmus test for Liberty coming in here. Liberty does it better than Texas State, no question. But I think LSU, with the groove we saw them get into the second half, obviously a lot of that was due to probably unsustainable shot making. But I think that's a good way a good platform to parlay that momentum into this matchup here. I just think LSU is categorically more talented, and all the pack line and rebounding fundamentals and technique that make Liberty so good might just be negated by the 5-star blue chippers that LSU will trot out.
A little nervous about the fact that it's Liberty's first D1 game. I wish they had one more under their belt. But I'm kind of with Kai. I think potential live dog situation here where LSU has been scorching hot in its first 2 games. I think that crashes down to earth a little bit against a team that's going to make them take long possessions, and maybe the quality of the threes they're taking won't be as good. They're going to have to force late in the shot clock. And again, just they're missing that guard creator with Adam Miller's torn ACL. I would definitely lean towards Liberty. I would have liked it at that 9 much more. Hard to totally recommend the 7.5, but I do think this is a game the Flames can win. It's a little reminiscent of when LSU lost at home to East Tennessee State 2 years ago. I believe that was by 11. East Tennessee State, kind of a more athletic team that was able to beat LSU on the boards. Liberty could potentially do that as well, though. So I'm leaning towards the Flames here. Not going to lock it in as a show bet at 7.5, but careful the live dog, LSU. I'm worried about you. All right, let's go to best bets, fellas. That is it for the outline. No, let's not go to best bets.
Chat.
Let's go to the chat. Let's go to
chat
the chat.
Needs us. They need our guidance, Jim. Don't abandon them.
Yeah.
Not in their time of need.
That's right.
All right,
Kai,
Jim.
what do you got for us?
First one's Texas Tech, Prairie View A&M. Lines around 23.5, 24. Prairie View A&M is on a crazy scheduling trip right now, Jim.
Insane.
They've been tough, though. They've been hanging in these games. What do you think about this?
Yeah, to recap the schedules that they're on. They played 2 games on the West Coast and then had to fly to Washington, D.C. to play Michigan on Saturday. Then on Sunday, they flew, or overnight, I guess, they flew to Oklahoma State, played there yesterday, and now they had to get down to Lubbock to play Texas Tech today. There's a lot of fight in this Prairie View team. I think they're very feisty. They're super well coached. If they hang around today, it is incredible. The line is clearly reflective of the fact that they're they're on this world tour and should be wearing down. But Matt, I don't really want to fade them, especially at this price, the number that it's at. I gotta leave it alone.
No, Prairie View's the Energizer Bunny. It's the little engine that could. They have so many dudes. Byron Smith just trots out 12 guys. So the bench helps them, I think, overcome that wear and tear from the long and grueling road trip. But my goodness, this is going to be their 5th game in the last week. Certainly they're going to crack at some point. They've hung with St. Mary's.
Third different time zone.
Third different time zone.
All over the place.
They didn't go away against St. Mary's, San Fran, Oklahoma State. Michigan clearly outclassed them. So is Texas Tech more in that Oklahoma State, San Fran, St. Mary's crop, or are they closer to Michigan? Sort of like in no man's land. That's how I'm torn. I'll probably stay away.
All right. How about San Diego Cal? And guys, I want to point out how just hilarious this line is. It's Cal -4. And I'm pretty sure, Jim and Matt, that you could have gotten San Diego versus Nevada at 15.5, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So we're saying Cal's 9 points better than, Nevada's 9 points better than California. I guess that could be true, Matt. It's just amazing that those two programs are that far apart. Do you think there's any value on the Toreros at 4?
No, I don't. I love the Toreros, and I think Cal's bad, but 4 points. I mean, we just saw Cal compete with UNLV. It was a gross, disgusting game, and UNLV is a work in progress as well. But I think just seeing California take UNLV to the wire gives us some evidence that they're not a complete dumpster fire. And thus, when you're only laying 4 to a team that just became D1 a year ago, as much as we like that team, as much as we like that coach.
UC San Diego.
Toreros.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you just get the wrong team in my head. Too many California teams. Jim, Sam Scholl, your guy. You met him in the airport. Just tell that story and then just negate my entire opening take that now has no relevance here.
No, I mean, I'm not going to bet it at 4 just because I do think
low.
Numerically, it doesn't have the value. I kind of think San Diego wins though. Like I just don't really love Cal as a favorite. I really like the San Diego roster, and the performance at Nevada was about as impressive as it gets. But there is some concern that was like their A+ game, and now they're going to Cal, and maybe they don't have that in their bag anymore. You're gonna get more of like a middling C game from the San Diego team. I think they win, but I'm not betting it again because I am a slave to numbers, and unfortunately, I got to listen to those. Speaking
of numbers, Peter in the chat pointed out 11.5 points better. I didn't do math very well in my head. On that
I heard that, and I was like, wait, is he doing some other subtraction in there? I don't know what's going on.
Masters in accounting. Can't do math. There you go. All
That's
right.
why last you have computers and calculators do that for you. Arithmetic's
Excel,
now.
Baby.
It's now
love
automated.
Excel.
Right.
We have two more. One is a question about our school, Jim, the Mizzou Tigers. They're playing UMKC.
I thought we could dodge this. The
specific questions about the under, and this one's gotten slammed. It's down to 128.5. That's so low, but this game's going to be ugly as hell. I think the under is the correct play.
I'd probably still take it at 128.5. I made this total low. Kansas City missing Arkel Lamar, who's kind of a key offensive weapon for them, but also useful defensively. I think the Missouri first game having 146 points was a total aberration.
Yeah, what was that about?
This is going to be a slog. The UMKC is a feisty underdog, which keeps it close, which I think also helps the total stay low because they're not going to run. Yeah, this one's gross. Still lean towards the under at the current number.
Yeah, talk about live dog. A total of in the low 120s, UMKC catching 11. And that's a great, just looking at that, you juxtapose low total with the underdog double digits. That's a good bet just right there in a vacuum. But then you also look at the matchup, fading the Mizzou Tigers, who we all agree is just sort of in disarray roster, is very unappetizing.
Yeah,
I like the ruse here as maybe a little money line sprinkle.
Not a double digit favorite. I would like backing.
It's a little bit
a money line sprinkle. Get out of town. All right. Last game here. Weber State, Duquesne. Duquesne's a team that's been a little bit disappointing to me so far. This spread, by the way, Weber was -2.5 to open. I just think that's nuts. It's down to -1, Weber State. But why shouldn't they be, Jim? Because Duquesne got crushed by Hofstra. They barely beat Ryder. I mean, it's a 12-point game, but it was still pretty close. I think Keith D'Ambrose kind of clouded my mind because this roster is not very good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I sort of don't mind the roster, but he does have to start a freshman point guard. That is not great. And RJ Gunn, the D2 transfer, who's going to be like a key forward for out. They have very little depth up front, which that's how you should beat Hofstra is destroy them in the paint. And with limited options, they weren't able to do that. Weber State's crazy talented. They've got transfers from everywhere, a couple extra year guys, a lot of experience, really good coach. I agree, Kai. The number wasn't great, or I lean towards Duquesne at that 2.5, but I'm not excited to fade Weber State because I think they could be a machine this year.
Yeah, Jim, I'm glad that you mentioned us being slave to numbers. The early steam now gives me an out to not have to endorse Duquesne because everything about this matchup, other than the travel, Weber coming from West Coast to Pittsburgh, kind of an awkward spot here for an early non-con game. Everything leans Weber. I think the more talented team, more experienced team, more cohesive team. And Keith D'Ambrose is one of our favorite coaches, but Randy Ray's right up there too. We saw what he did when he finally had a healthy roster last year. He's renovated his offense more modern, apparently, and all the dudes that he has sort of fit into that very nicely. If this game was played anywhere but Duquesne tonight, I'd be on Weber, but I'm staying away.
All right, Jim, back to you.
Well, we're talking best bets. Matt, you and I just got to recap ours from earlier. Kai's got a little bit of a teaser. We haven't gotten to his game yet. So Matt, tell us what you had earlier in the show.
Only got one tonight, trying to tread lightly after I got, stuck my chest out a little too broadly over the weekend, got burned badly my last two. So I need to act humble, ground myself. I'm taking Marquette +8. That's all I have.
All right.
What do you got for us, Kai?
I'm going Central Michigan -3, Jim. This game's gotten steamed to a place where there's probably not a ton more value if you're looking for a straight line perspective here, but I just think Eastern Illinois sucks. Central Michigan hung with Mizzou. They hung with DePaul for a whole half. They got blown out in the second half. Okay. Eastern Illinois hasn't even been competitive. They scored 16 points in 30 minutes against SLU. Northwestern
Simmons, baby.
boomed them. Yeah, he's fine. The roster's just bad. And Kevin Boopy Miller, Jim, I know you like him. I know you like Boopy. He's a freshman point guard for CMU. He's going to be an awesome mid-major player over the next 4 years. Also, LIU cast off Jermaine Jackson's been very good early. I think Central Michigan has way more talent. Obviously, it's two first-year coaches here. I think Tony Barbie has the advantage. CMU -3 right now at BetRivers.
Yeah, I don't think Eastern Illinois' key big guy, Sammy Friday, has played yet either, which is a problem. Central Michigan, obviously, was my best bet on Saturday against DePaul and ended up getting housed in the second half. So,
that's right.
Eventually we're going to get up a reputation of being overly obsessed with the Chippewas here, but hopefully they'll get us a cover and we'll be 1-1 on the chips and we'll feel all right. But yeah, so Kai, Central Michigan -3. And my best bet from earlier was Providence +5.5 at Wisconsin. That's it. I think that's all we got today. Correct, fellas?
That's right.
Yeah, Jim, Friday did make an appearance off the bench last game for Eastern Illinois, but I think the point is the fact that we're excited about Sammy Friday making his debut sort of speaks to the barren state of affairs right now in Eastern Illinois basketball. So it's still wholeheartedly endorse Kai's take.
Yep. Well said. Well said. All right. That wraps it up. That is our Monday show. We will be back tomorrow at the same time, same Best Bets channel on YouTube. So subscribe to that. Hit that like button on your way out. Definitely would appreciate that. Thank you to Field of 68. Thank you to BetRivers for presenting this show. That is it. We'll see you Tuesday.